Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we all go through storms. Some are brief, others last longer than we ever imagined. The wind howls, the waves crash, and sometimes it feels like we're drowning in pain, fear, and uncertainty. But I want to tell you something today. With every fiber of truth in my being, you may feel tired, broken, like you've given all you can, and still life keeps asking for more. But when your strength runs out, God's strength begins. When you are too weak to stand, He carries you. When you are lost and confused, He guides you. And when you feel invisible to the world, you are fully seen by Him. There comes a moment in every person's life when the weight of the world feels too heavy to bear, a moment when your strength is gone, your hope is low, and everything in you says, I can't go on. Maybe it's the loss of someone you love. Maybe it's a health battle, a broken dream, or the kind of disappointment that leaves you speechless. In times like these, human strength reaches its limit. No amount of willpower, motivation, or planning seems to make a difference. You've tried everything. You've pushed, pulled, prayed, and still, nothing seems to change. That's the moment where this truth becomes real. God's strength begins where yours ends. It's hard to admit you're not strong enough. We live in a world that teaches us to hustle harder, to keep our heads up, to never let them see us cry. But God never asked us to be invincible. He doesn't require perfection, He invites surrender. Because when we are weak, that's when His power can truly be made perfect in us. In the Bible, Paul wrote, "For when I am weak, then I am strong." That sounds like a contradiction until you've lived it. Until you face something so far beyond your own ability that you had no choice but to let go. And in that letting go, in that surrender, something beautiful happens. God steps in. He takes over. He lifts you with hands that do not tire. He carries you with love that never fails. There's something sacred about the end of your rope. When you're hanging by a thread, when every plan has fallen apart, when you're standing in the ashes of what used to be, you're standing in the place where God can work a miracle. That's not the end of your story. It's the beginning of His strength showing up in your life in ways you never imagined. Think back on your life. Think of the battles you didn't think you'd win, the nights you cried and wondered if morning would ever come. But morning did come, and somehow you made it through. That was God. That was His strength holding you when you couldn't hold yourself together. That was His grace filling the gaps when you didn't have the energy to move forward. You don't have to earn this strength. You don't have to deserve it. You don't have to perform or prove anything. God gives it freely. He gives it to the brokenhearted, to the weary, to the ones who think they're not enough. And His strength doesn't always come with fanfare or lightning from the sky. Sometimes it comes quietly, in peace that steadies your heart, in the small courage to take one more step, in the stillness of knowing He is near. When we try to do everything ourselves, we put ourselves under pressure we were never meant to carry. We exhaust our minds, damage our bodies, and wear out our souls trying to hold it all together. But God says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Not more work, not more pressure. Rest. That rest doesn't mean everything will be easy. It means you won't be alone in it. It means that while the storm may rage around you, you have an anchor, a source of strength that can never be shaken. God's strength is not just about physical endurance. It's about inner peace. It's about the ability to stand tall in your spirit, even when everything around you is falling apart. It's about having a quiet confidence that says, "I don't know how, but I know who." That is the strength that carries you through sickness, through rejection, through betrayal, through loss. It's the strength that turns your scars into stories and your pain into purpose. It's easy to feel alone when life gets hard, when the walls feel like they're closing in, when your prayers seem to echo back in silence, and when no one around you seems to understand what you're going through. It's natural to wonder, where is God? Does He see me? Does He care? The answer, though it may not always come wrapped in lightning or thunder, is a quiet, steady truth that has never failed. You are never alone in the storm. There are moments in life that feel like shipwrecks, the dreams we once clung to get torn apart, the people we counted on walk away. The goals we set start to fade in the rearview mirror, and it seems like wave after wave crashes over us, leaving us struggling just to breathe. But even in the middle of that storm, even when everything in you feels broken and overwhelmed, God is there. He doesn't always calm the storm immediately. Sometimes instead He walks with us through it. Like when Jesus' disciples were terrified in the boat, thinking the waves would swallow them, and there came Jesus, walking on water, showing them that what threatened to drown them was already beneath His feet. He didn't wait for the storm to pass before showing up. He met them in the middle of it. You may not see Him with your eyes, but He is closer than the air you breathe. He is there in the hospital room. He is there when the bills are piling up and you don't know how you'll make ends meet. He is there when you've just received news that breaks your heart. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. He is not a distant God. He is Emmanuel, God with us. There is something deeply comforting about knowing that the Creator of the universe chooses to walk with you through your darkest days. He doesn't send you into battle and watch from afar. He walks beside you. He holds your hand. He lifts your head, and He gives you the strength to keep going, even when you feel like giving up. Loneliness is one of the enemy's most powerful weapons. When we believe the lie that we are alone, we start to isolate ourselves, to shut down, to stop reaching out. But God's truth is louder than any lie, and that truth says, I will never leave you nor forsake you, not if you fail, not if you fall, not if you doubt. He is a God who stays. Even when our faith is weak, His presence is strong. Even when we can't feel Him, He's still working. Just because the clouds block the sun doesn't mean the sun has disappeared. And just because you can't see God doesn't mean He's not right there with you. He walks with you through the storm, through the silence, through the suffering. He walks with you when friends walk away. He walks with you when family doesn't understand. He walks with you when your own strength runs dry. And here's something else to hold on to. The storm you're facing isn't evidence of God's absence. It's an opportunity for you to discover His presence in a deeper way. It's often in the hardest times that we learn how near God truly is. We begin to understand that we don't need everything to make sense in order to trust Him. We just need to know that He is near, and that He is good. Sometimes all we can do is whisper His name. Sometimes all we can do is cry. And that's enough, because God hears. He sees every tear. He knows every unspoken fear. He knows when you're tired of fighting, tired of pretending, tired of holding it all together. And in those moments, He doesn't ask you to be strong. He asks you to lean on Him. When we realize that we are never alone, we begin to walk with a quiet confidence. The world may shake, the winds may howl, but deep inside we know we are held, we are seen, we are loved, and we are not walking through this fire alone. God is with you right now, in this very moment. In the middle of the storm, in the questions, in the waiting. He hasn't abandoned you. He hasn't forgotten you, and He never will. Faith is not built on the mountaintop. It is forged in the valley. When life is easy, when the path is smooth, and everything seems to be going according to plan, it's easy to say we trust God, but it is in the moments of deep pain, confusion, and silence that real faith is tested and strengthened. When nothing makes sense and you have no choice but to rely on God, that's when faith becomes more than a word. It becomes a lifeline. It's in those dark valleys that your relationship with Him stops being theory and becomes something personal, something real, something unshakable. Everyone goes through valleys in life. Sometimes it's a loss you never expected. Sometimes it's a heartbreak, a betrayal, or a dream that crumbles in your hands. And in those seasons, the question that rises again and again is why? You ask, why me? Why now? Why this? But the answers often don't come right away. Sometimes they don't come at all. And that's when you find yourself standing at a crossroads. Either your faith will shrink back in confusion, or it will press forward in trust. The valley doesn't feel good. It's not comfortable. It's not easy, but it is necessary. Because the truth is, there are some things you only learn about God in the valley. On the mountaintop you celebrate what He's done, but in the valley, you discover who He is. You learn that He's not just the God of blessings, He's the God of broken places. He's the God who sits with you when you cry. He's the God who listens when you don't even have words. And He's the God who doesn't walk away when things get messy. Faith that's never tested is a faith that cannot be trusted. It's easy to say God is good when life is going well. But what about when nothing is working out? What about when you're doing everything right and still everything seems wrong? It's in those moments that you choose to believe, when it doesn't feel good, when it doesn't make sense. That kind of faith doesn't come from sermons or songs. It comes from walking through fire and realizing you're not burning. It comes from being in the middle of the storm and recognizing that God is your anchor, not your escape hatch. When David wrote, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil," he wasn't speaking from a place of theory, he was speaking from experience. He had been hunted, betrayed, forgotten, but he had also seen firsthand that God never abandoned him. He had learned, through pain, that God was not only with him in victory, but in sorrow too, and that gave him a confidence that no circumstance could take away. You see, the valley teaches you to listen. In the noise of everyday life, it's easy to become distracted, but when everything is stripped away, when the distractions are gone, you begin to hear His voice more clearly. Maybe not audibly, but in your spirit, in the peace that defies understanding, in the gentle reminder that you are not alone. The valley also teaches you humility. It reminds you that you don't have all the answers, and that's okay. You learn to depend on God, not as a last resort, but as your first response. You learn that your strength will fail, but His never will. You learn that surrender is not weakness, it's the wisest thing you can do. And perhaps most importantly, the valley teaches you perseverance. It builds a kind of spiritual endurance that you can't get anywhere else. You begin to understand what it means to walk by faith, not by sight. You learn to keep moving, even when you don't feel it, even when you're tired, even when you don't understand, because you've seen what God can do in the valley, and that gives you the strength to keep going. So if you're walking through a valley right now, know this: it's not the end of your story. It's a chapter, not the conclusion, and God is with you in it. Not just watching, not just sympathizing, but actively shaping you, strengthening you, and walking with you every step of the way. Your faith may feel fragile, but it is being made strong. Your vision may feel blurry, but God is guiding you. Your heart may feel heavy, but you are not alone. The valley is not where you're meant to stay, it's where you're meant to grow. And on the other side, you'll look back and realize that it wasn't just the valley that changed, it was you. Pain has a way of clouding our vision. When we're hurting, when life takes an unexpected turn, it can feel like everything is falling apart with no purpose in sight. We ask, what good can possibly come from this? It's a question every human being wrestles with at some point. But there is a deeper truth that pain often conceals. God has a purpose for your pain. It may not be visible in the moment, and it may not make sense right now, but nothing you've been through is wasted in God's hands. God is a redeemer. That means He doesn't just rescue us from pain, He repurposes it. He takes what was meant to harm us and transforms it into something that can heal, teach, and strengthen us. The very thing you thought would break you can become the thing that builds you. The situation that made you feel weak can become the soil in which God grows your strength. This doesn't mean the pain is good in itself. Pain is real, and it can be devastating. But God is in the business of making beauty from ashes, not pretending the ashes never existed. Sometimes we want God to remove our pain instantly, and He can. But often, He allows us to walk through it because of what He is doing in us. There are lessons we only learn in the valley. There is compassion that only grows in the soil of suffering. And there is strength that only develops when we're stretched beyond what we thought we could handle. You might not see it now, but the pain you're experiencing could be the foundation for someone else's healing later. Your scars will tell a story. They won't just be signs of what hurt you. They'll be signs of what God healed. They'll be proof that you made it through. And when others are going through their own trials, they'll look to your life as a testament that survival is possible, that purpose can come from pain, and that God truly works all things for good. Joseph in the Bible is a perfect example. He was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned. Years of suffering, setbacks and confusion marked his life, but when God raised him up to a position of authority in Egypt, he looked back at everything he had endured, and said to his brothers, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." That doesn't mean the betrayal didn't hurt. It doesn't mean the years in prison were easy, but it means that God was at work, even in the suffering, guiding Joseph to a place of purpose that would not only save his life, but the lives of many others. Your story is no different. It may not look like Joseph's, but the same God is at work in your life. He sees what you're going through. He knows every tear, every sleepless night, every question you've cried out in desperation, and none of it is for nothing. The heartbreak, the loss, the disappointment, they are all threads in the tapestry of something greater, something eternal, something you may not fully understand now, but that will make perfect sense in the light of His glory. Don't believe the lie that your pain is pointless. It's not. God is using it to mold your character, deepen your faith, and draw you closer to Him. He's using it to break off pride, to birth compassion, to teach endurance, and to give you a new perspective that only comes through the fire. Pain has a way of focusing our vision on what truly matters. It strips away the superficial and leaves us face to face with what's real. And what's real is this: you are not alone in your suffering. God is with you, not just beside you as an observer, but inside your pain, working through it. He is your comforter, your healer, and your hope, and He is doing something in you that will outlast the temporary sting of this moment. One day, you will look back and see that what hurt you also shaped you, that the nights you cried were not wasted, that the season you hated became the one that transformed you. So if you're walking through something right now that you don't understand, breathe, keep walking, don't give up. Your pain has purpose, and the God who sees the end from the beginning is writing a story that includes redemption, beauty, and hope, not despite your pain, but because of it. There's something powerful about prayer, something deeper than words spoken into the air. It's more than a routine, more than a spiritual checklist. Prayer is a lifeline. It is the sacred space where heaven meets earth, where human weakness touches divine strength. When life feels overwhelming, when anxiety grips your heart, when your strength is gone and your hope is fading, prayer is not just an option, it becomes your survival. In our fast-paced world, we're often tempted to treat prayer like a last resort. We say things like, "All I can do now is pray," as if prayer is the weakest tool in the box. But in reality, it is the most powerful weapon we have. It's not a backup plan. It is the front line of our faith. It's in prayer that we bring our chaos to the one who brings peace. It's where we exchange our fear for His comfort, our questions for His wisdom, our tears for His promises. There are moments in life when all the advice in the world won't help, when no friend's words can soothe the ache in your soul. It's in those quiet, hidden places, when your heart is breaking, when your mind is racing, that prayer becomes more than words. It becomes communion. It becomes connection. You're not just speaking into the void. You're talking to the Creator of the universe, the one who hears, sees, knows, and cares deeply. God is not distant. He's not too busy. He doesn't roll His eyes when you come to Him again, with the same hurt, the same worry, the same fear. No, He leans in. He listens with love. He meets you right where you are, not where you pretend to be. And the beauty of prayer is that you don't have to have the right words. You don't need to sound holy or polished. You can come messy. You can come exhausted. You can come angry, confused, broken, or unsure, and still He welcomes you. Romans 8:26 tells us that when we don't even know what to pray, the Holy Spirit intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. That means that even when all you can do is cry, God hears. Even when your heart is too heavy to speak, God understands. Prayer isn't always eloquent. Sometimes it's just a whisper, "God help me." Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's just sitting in His presence, letting your heart speak what your mouth can't. And what happens when we pray? isn't always immediate change in our circumstances, but what does change is us. Prayer brings peace before the solution arrives. It brings strength before the breakthrough comes. It shifts our focus from the problem to the problem solver. It reminds us that we are not alone, that we are seen, loved, and supported by a power greater than anything we face. When you make prayer a habit, it doesn't make life perfect, but it does make life possible. It creates a rhythm of trust. It roots your soul in something solid. When everything around you feels shaky, it becomes the place where you empty your burdens and receive His peace in return. Prayer is also where battle happens. When the enemy whispers lies, you'll never make it, God has forgotten you, there's no way out. Prayer is where you fight back, not with your own strength, but with the promises of God. It's where you remind your soul that God is faithful, even when life isn't fair. It's where you declare truth in the face of fear, where you push back against the darkness and choose to stand in the light. And here's the beautiful part. God never gets tired of hearing from you. Whether it's your first prayer or your thousandth, He listens with the same attention, the same compassion, the same love. He doesn't keep score. He doesn't hold back. His heart is always open, and He invites you again and again to come boldly to His throne of grace, not timidly, not nervously, but with confidence that He is your Father, and you are His child. So if today you feel overwhelmed, pray. If you're uncertain, pray. If you're grateful, broken, frustrated, or tired, pray. Don't wait until you have it all together. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now, right here, right in your pain, your confusion, your weariness. Prayer isn't about fancy words or perfect posture. It's about connection. It's about relationship. It's about anchoring your soul to the one who holds it all. There are moments in life when everything seems to fall apart, when the weight of disappointment, heartbreak, loss, or failure threatens to crush you. You may find yourself standing in the middle of the wreckage, looking around at everything that once made sense, and asking, where do I go from here? In those moments, it's tempting to believe that your best days are behind you, that the story is over, that there's nothing left to hope for. But the truth is, God is not finished with you yet. What you see as an ending, God may be shaping into a new beginning. Just because your plans failed, doesn't mean God's plan for your life has. His purpose is not confined by the limitations of your past. It's not derailed by mistakes, heartbreak, or detours. In fact, some of the most powerful chapters in our lives begin when everything else seems to end. God specializes in resurrection, bringing life from death, beauty from ashes, and hope from despair. Too often, we define ourselves by what we've lost. We let our identity be shaped by failure or pain. But God sees beyond your brokenness. He looks at you and sees purpose. He sees a future. He sees potential. He is not done writing your story. And as long as you have breath, you have reason to believe that something beautiful can still emerge from the ruins. It's important to remember that God works in seasons. Just because you're in a winter season now, a time of coldness, isolation, or apparent lifelessness, does not mean that spring isn't coming. Seasons change. What is barren today can bloom tomorrow. And while you wait, while you endure, God is working beneath the surface, cultivating growth you can't yet see. He's preparing you, molding you, strengthening your roots, so that when your time comes, you'll be able to stand tall and flourish. God doesn't waste anything. Every tear, every setback, every closed door, He uses it all. What you thought was the end of your dream might just be the redirection towards something even greater. Sometimes God allows certain things to break apart so He can rebuild you on a firmer foundation. Sometimes He closes doors, not to punish you, but to protect you. And sometimes He withholds what you wanted to give you, what you truly need. It can be hard to trust that when you're hurting. It can be hard to believe in a future you can't see, especially when the present feels like darkness. But faith doesn't require all the answers. Faith is choosing to believe that even in this, yes, even here, God is at work. It's trusting that the author of your life is still holding the pen, and He's not done with your story.
Think about Moses. He thought his life was over when he fled Egypt and spent 40 years in the wilderness. But God called him from that very wilderness to lead a nation. Or Ruth, a widow in a foreign land with no future in sight, yet from her line came King David, and eventually Jesus. Or Peter, who denied Jesus 3 times and thought he had ruined everything, yet Jesus restored him and used him to build the church. Again and again, Scripture reminds us that God isn't limited by where we've been. He's focused on where He's taking us. You may not feel strong right now. That's okay. God isn't looking for your perfection. He's looking for your willingness. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to see the whole path. You just need to take the next step, trusting that God will meet you there, guide you, and carry you through. His grace is sufficient. His power is made perfect in weakness, and His promises still stand. So hold on. Don't quit now. Don't let today's pain steal tomorrow's purpose. What you're walking through today may be the very thing that equips you for what's ahead. The strength you're building, the faith you're developing, the lessons you're learning, they are all part of what God is using to shape your destiny. Sometimes, life feels like a series of endless obstacles, a maze of challenges that we can't seem to escape. It's in these moments of struggle that it's hardest to believe in the possibility of a breakthrough, especially when everything around us seems to scream, "No way out." But it's in the very moments when you feel like you can't go on that you need to remember the truth. Breakthroughs are often born from the toughest battles. At times we want instant solutions to our problems, a quick fix to make everything feel right again. But life doesn't always work that way. We don't always get the immediate relief we crave, and the path to victory is often long and filled with twists, turns, and setbacks. But the journey, even though it's hard, is necessary for growth. The struggle builds strength, resilience, and character, and every step you take forward, no matter how small, is one step closer to the breakthrough that God is orchestrating in your life. God doesn't promise us a life free of difficulties, but He does promise to be with us in them. He doesn't abandon us in the middle of our battles. In fact, it's in those very moments of hardship that He often works His greatest miracles. The times when you feel most helpless are the times when God can move in the most powerful ways, teaching you lessons and revealing His strength in ways you couldn't experience without the trial. When you are weak, He is strong, and when you feel like you've reached your breaking point, that's often when God is about to make a way where there seems to be no way. Think of the many stories in the Bible of people who faced seemingly impossible situations. People like Moses, Joseph, David, and even Jesus Himself. Each one of them encountered moments where the odds were stacked against them, and it seemed like there was no way out. Moses stood before the Red Sea, with Pharaoh's army closing in behind him. Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers, imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. David, a young shepherd, faced the mighty Goliath with nothing but a sling and faith in God. And Jesus, in the ultimate act of obedience and surrender, went to the cross, enduring the greatest trial of all. But each one of them experienced a breakthrough. The Red Sea parted. Joseph was elevated to a position of authority in Egypt. David defeated Goliath, and Jesus, after his death, rose again in victory. Each one of these breakthroughs came after a time of struggle, uncertainty, and pain. And they weren't just for the people involved. They were for everyone who would ever hear their stories, who would see how God moved in the midst of difficulty. Their breakthroughs revealed the power, faithfulness, and love of God. In your own life, breakthroughs often look like something different than you expect. We tend to imagine a breakthrough as an immediate resolution to our problems, but God works in ways that are often more subtle and gradual. A breakthrough might not look like the end of your struggle, but rather, the strength to endure. It might not feel like everything is fixed, but it could be the peace in your heart to accept the process. Sometimes, breakthroughs aren't instant, but they are steady progress that leads you to a place of deeper trust in God and greater reliance on His power. When you find yourself in the midst of struggle, don't lose hope. The fact that you are still standing is proof that God is with you, even when you can't feel Him. Your persistence through the hard times matters. Every prayer you pray, every step of faith you take, and every choice to trust in God when everything seems hopeless brings you closer to the breakthrough He has planned for you. God's timing is not our timing. We often want things to change quickly, but God knows the perfect timing for everything. Just because your breakthrough hasn't come yet doesn't mean it's not coming, and just because you don't see how it will happen doesn't mean that God doesn't have a way. He is working behind the scenes, even in the moments when you can't see it. Trust that He is using your struggle to prepare you for something greater. Trust that He will bring you through this, and that on the other side, you'll be stronger, wiser, and more equipped for the next chapter of your journey. So if you're in a dark season right now, hold on. You don't have to carry the weight of the world. You don't have to figure it all out. You just need to take the next step in faith and let God do what only He can do.